Hello, my name is Vallari Sanskiri and I'm a journalist from MediaNama. Today we'll be speaking with Sarvesh Mathi, another journalist at MediaNama, to discuss the topic of Google Play Store and its billing policy. Sarvesh, thank you for joining us. To start off, can you just tell us what exactly the history is about this billing policy?
Yeah, so basically what's going on right now, I'll first give it to you in a nutshell in terms of what the issue is and what's going on, and then I'll probably dive into the details about where it all started and how it came to this point. So, so what's happening right now is, for example, if you have an Android phone, you go to Google Play Store and you download an app. Let's take Headspace, the meditation app, as an example. So you go download the Headspace app, and Headspace has some free meditation sessions. You do that, and then you want to upgrade to their paid sessions. And now when you go to buy this paid session, let's assume it's uh, 90 rupees a month. So essentially, what is happening right now is Google's billing policy requires Headspace to pay a certain portion of that 90 rupees that you pay to Google. So this is around 30 rupees. So Headspace, the app, only gets 60 rupees. Google gets 30 rupees for every time, every month, basically. And Headspace and other startups, especially the startups in the Indian ecosystem, don't want to pay this commission to Google. They are saying that we don't want to use Google's billing system at all. We just want to use third-party billing system. We'll use Razorpay, BillDesk, whichever, and pay Razorpay that 2% commission that they usually charge, instead of using Google's billing system and paying. So that's what the whole debate is. So the whole, in a nutshell, the fight is for startups to not pay Google the commission that Google is asking, the 15 to 30% commission.
So, what you said about Google getting 30 rupees, is that as per the new policy or based on the previous policy?
Based on, so it's a range. It's between 10% to 30%. When it's at its highest, it's that 30 rupees, 30% this thing. At its lowest, it's 10%. This is under both its old policy and its new policy. New policy doesn't actually meaningfully reduce much. So that's why these developers are annoyed, because uh, a quick overview of the new policy. New policy in India, at least, it says you can use a third-party billing system, but the third-party billing system must appear alongside Google's billing system. So again, going back to the Headspace example, when you click subscribe, there can be two billing systems, one which says pay using Razorpay. The other one must say pay using Google billing. You cannot just use that Razorpay as an option. And now if if you as a user pay using Razorpay, you still have to pay Google a commission of 26%, reduced by 4% instead of the 30%. So it's not meaningfully changing much for developers. That's why developers are not happy with the new billing policy.
So this, what you're talking about, this has been happening for a long time, right? Why has it suddenly become a hot topic again?
It's suddenly become a hot topic because of recent orders passed by CCI. But actually, to better understand this whole the line of events, what's been happening, it's we have to go back to 2020. So the pre-2020 world, apps use third-party billing systems and didn't pay Google a commission. So basically, every app, at least in India, gaming app, productivity app, whenever you buy something, they directly build it through a third-party billing system, and Google did not receive any commission. In 2020 September, Google put out a clarification saying that for all in-app purchases, you have to use Google's billing system. This was a notification issued to developers. And Google said that this has always been the policy. We didn't enforce it strictly, but from now onwards, we're going to enforce it strictly. We're just issuing this as a clarification. So right after Google said this, Indian startups, they were totally unhappy with it. There was a group formed, Bharat Matrimony, a couple of other companies. They all formed a Paytm. They formed a WhatsApp group and they discussed this. And they actually, our editor Nikhil has done a story on this. He reported live from that what was happening in that group. So they were saying that this is a colonial kind of tax. Google is taking too much money. This should not be allowed. Eventually, one thing led to another, and one, Google said that it's going to delay that clarification or the billing policy for India. So first it said it'll implement it in March 2022, which is last year. That was then pushed to October 2022. And then that got pushed to April 2023. So this was one thing that Google itself was delaying its the implementation because of all this uh, like backlash from Indian startups. The second thing, the more important thing that happened was uh, these startups that were against this policy, they eventually formed a group which is now known as ADIF. And ADIF, the Alliance of Digital India Foundation, went and filed a complaint with the Competition Commission of India, CCI, saying that look into this, it's an antitrust practice. CCI in November 2020 launched an investigation. That investigation was ongoing until 2022. And fast forward to 2022, during the 2020 to 2022 period, startups continued their old way of not paying Google any commission and using third-party billing system. Then come to 2022, October, CCI put out its decision. CCI said that Google must allow third-party billing systems. See, they should allow developers to take users' payment information from external sources. It cannot just say that it should be through the app. Everything in favor of developers. This happened October last year, October 2022. January this year, Google put out a press release saying that we are complying with CCI's orders. So that's when they introduced this new billing policy saying that you can include a third-party billing system alongside Google's billing system. They didn't say that you can have it standalone as a third-party billing system. And because they said that it has to be alongside Google's billing system, and because they also said that you still have to pay a commission, reduced commission, the commission will be reduced by 4% from what you were paying earlier. So if you're paying 15% earlier, now you pay 11%. If you're paying 30% earlier, you pay 26%. If you're paying 10% earlier, now you pay 6%, basically 4% less. But you still have to pay a commission. This new billing policy, the startups are arguing that it's not what the CCI order actually meant. The CCI order said that you cannot force people to use Google's billing system, and you cannot set price, you cannot have any price conditions like this kind of commission, is what startups are saying. So that's why they're fighting Google. So that's the whole timeline of how we are at where we are.
So this you're talking about just Indian companies, right? What's happening globally?
Globally, the pressure is similar. Different countries are pursuing different things. There are two landmark events. One is Epic Games filing a lawsuit against both Apple and Google. The lawsuit was very publicly heard, and there was a lot of coverage. So the Epic versus Apple, actually, the judge mostly sided with Apple. That is concluded. But the Epic versus Google case is yet to be heard. That's one event globally that's worth tracking. The second event that happened was South Korea became the first country in 2021 or 2022 to amend its laws to require Google and Apple to allow third-party billing systems. So they actually set the precedent for passing laws that require this. So these are two important events globally. But apart from that, every other country, you name the country and they are looking into it. EU is looking into this issue. It's still not come out with a final decision. Indonesia is looking into it. Japan is looking into it. UK is looking into it. New Zealand is looking into it. Pretty much every big regulator, China is looking into it. Every regulator is looking into it. So globally, there is increased pressure for Google and Apple to keep their app stores more open and allow third-party billing without charging such high commissions.
Looks like South Korea has the most, has the firmest reaction to this whole thing. But
they do have the firmest reaction. But what happened in South Korea also, right? So like in India, Google is looking for workarounds, loopholes. So in India, the loophole that they have is the same thing which I mentioned about how they're still charging a commission even for third-party billing systems. The CCI order doesn't exactly spell out that you can't charge a commission. So they took advantage of that lack of explicitness to charge this commission. So even in South Korea, they have found some loopholes and they are like still finding ways to charge developers a high commission. South Korea's regulator, the telecom regulator, is the one in charge of this. So South Korea's regulators now launched an investigation into that, and that's ongoing. So basically, in every jurisdiction where there has been some kind of reprimand or some kind of regulation targeted at Google and Apple, Google and Apple are finding ways to go around. But what I think is this is not going to go on for long, because just I think 2 days back or yesterday or maybe day before, I think I did a story about how Japan is now launching an not launching an they are directly coming out with rules to require Apple and Google to allow third-party billing system. So that's just one country as an example. So every country is putting pressure from every side. So eventually, I think Google and Apple will have to give in. The App Store and the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store will eventually become more open. The commissions are likely to drop. This is just my personal take. The timeline is something I don't know how fast it will happen. Google and Apple will delay as much as possible, because if you think about it from their perspective, this is a big revenue source for them. The App Store revenue is a significant source for both Google and Apple. So they are going to try to delay it as much as possible to implement changes. But eventually, it's going to come to a point where commissions drop very low and third-party app stores become a thing. In EU, actually, the Digital Markets Act requires Apple to allow third-party billing systems. So that goes into effect in a couple of months. So it's inevitable that it's going to open up more.
I mean, it's like you said, that if it's a big source of revenue, I don't know if it's going to get resolved very soon in India. What do you think about that?
So in India, actually, there are two legal challenges that startups have adopted. One, they are arguing with the National Company Law Appellate Tribunal, which sits above, which adjudicates CCI's decisions. So startups have gone there saying that Google is not following CCI's order to the letter, to the spirit. So look into it. NCLAT is looking into it. If NCLAT comes and tells that Google cannot actually mandate its own billing system alongside third party, then Google will have to change that. If NCLAT tells that pricing cannot be as high as what you're putting, then it has to adhere to that. But we don't know if NCLAT has the power to regulate pricing. Eventually, it might go to Supreme Court, and Supreme Court might. Google has a lot of points in its favor in the Supreme Court as well. It can argue on security grounds. It can argue that the CCI order only tells that I should allow a third-party billing system. It doesn't say that I should not also require my billing system. So Google can argue that. So Google has a lot running there. But startups also have their own argument with the CCI orders, like 200, 300 pages. It's very detailed. Startups can pick any part of that and say that Google is not compliant. So they also have a lot. So that's one legal recourse that startups are pursuing. The second legal recourse is very interesting. It was started by matrimony.com. They filed a case in Madras High Court saying that Google's billing system is not in adherence to RBI's guidelines for payments. So they have said that any company that runs a billing system has certain rules that they have to follow. They cannot charge for UPI transactions. They have to settle any amount they collect within 1 or 2 days. 2, 3 other things like this. And matrimony.com has argued that Google's billing system does not follow all of these, despite Google acting as a payment system operator. And Madras High Court actually said that, okay, we see some merit, so we'll give you an interim injunction saying that Google can't take any action against you, at least until this case is heard. Right after matrimony.com got this winning, 5, 6 other startups went to Madras High Court and got the same ruling. So both these cases are being heard right now, and the outcome of what's going to happen to Google and these startups depends on these two cases. But just because of the overall pressure globally for Apple and Google to change, I think overall startups and developers have a higher chance of a favorable ruling in the end.
All right. Thank you, Sarvesh. So I think you made it pretty clear what exactly are the nuances going on over here. We can see how developers and companies are sort of getting impatient with Apple. Even countries are now getting impatient with Apple and Google. So let's see. Hopefully what you're saying will come true and there will be some resolution to this very soon. For those who have been watching this video, thank you for listening to us, and listening to Sarvesh's comments on what is happening. If you're interested to know more about what is happening in this space, do tune into MediaNama's videos and our writings. Thank you.